This is At the Extremes.
Beloveds, welcome back to At the Extremes, the podcast where we discuss the extremes in our society and how we got here. As always, we're your host. I'm Greg.
And I'm Serge.
And today, we're going to discuss a group that the Southern Poverty Law Center calls an anti-government extremist group. But before we get into it, Sergio, help me with your silver lining for the week, man.
You know, I've been thinking about it. Actually, I haven't been thinking about it all that much until you just asked me right now. But
that sounds right.
But silver lining has to go with kind of crawling to the finish line when it comes to work and getting excited about summer break. And I'm actually been just scheming in my head of now that I'm going to have all this free time, us just being able to get together just that much more often and just pump out a lot more content.
Ooh, we got a summer of content?
I mean, hot boy summer.
Oh, man, there was a white supremacy group that really tried to take that hot boy summer thing.
Well, I'm trying to reclaim it for us.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, not Patriot Front. Well, that's good though. You know, summer is always a good time for you. I know you love the summer.
You know what? I don't really love the summer out here. I like spring and fall, but
okay.
the summertime. And I do appreciate, so let me say this. I appreciate, I looked outside last night, and I do like lightning bugs because that's something I didn't grow up with on the West Coast. So I didn't really
have lightning bugs out there.
No.
Really?
Actually, the first time, this is kind of a funny story, I was in Guatemala, and I might have had one too many cervezas that night.
Of course.
And I saw lightning bugs, and it kind of freaked me out because I thought somebody was taking pictures of me. And then somebody said, "No, you idiot, those are lightning bugs."
Wow.
Like, wow.
Okay.
I've never seen one in person before. So I do like that. And I do like the summer storms and the sounds of the crickets, but I hate humidity and I hate mosquitoes. And there's too many of those out here.
Damn. All right. Well, that's something I did not know about the West Coast in terms of the firefly. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So there's a kind of firefly continental divide. Has to do with flashing behavior among adults, blah, 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 blah. Huh. Interesting. All right. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
But summers in Seattle are awesome. That's the best time of year because it's, well, unless there's a firefight or fires, that's not good.
Which seems like a yearly occurrence now. So
it wasn't growing up, which is really sad.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's God, we were dealing with some smoke and smog down here on the East Coast from all the fires that are ripping through Canada right now. So that's
It's pretty crazy because I have an aunt who lives up in Milwaukee, and Milwaukee had it really, really bad. And so I think at, what was it, Tuesday or Wednesday, they had the worst air quality in the whole United States.
Gee, golly.
Mm-hmm.
That is... We're doing good. We're doing fine.
Yeah.
We're doing fine.
Global warming, it's not a thing.
Yeah, no. It's going to be great, folks. Every year, whatever, fuck it. I'll give you my silver lining. So last month, Mental Health Awareness Month, but also Anxiety Awareness Month. Hadn't recognized that. And so I know I'm late on this, but shout out to all my fellow anxiety
Your anxious bros and
broettes and
dudettes.
Dudettes and dudes and dudettes. Yeah, it was just like, oh, okay. I didn't know that there was an awareness month for that, but now that I know that, I am more anxious about there being an awareness month for it. Like I didn't know about it.
No, everybody's a lot more aware of my anxiety.
Yeah. No, I guess I wanted to, in that, I just wanted to say thank you to all the people who put up with my perfectionism and incredible drive for perfection in all things, and that can be crippling for myself and for those around me. So I appreciate anyone who has to deal with me.
Heck yeah.
So, well, now that we've done our silver linings, let's go ahead and take a real quick drinks break. We come back, we're going to do the douche canoe, and then we're going to talk about an organization called Turning Point USA.
Do.
We're back. Sergio, it's douche canoe time, man. What do you got for us this week?
Wow. So I got invited to do it again. And, it's an exciting process to be able to research douchey people and to talk about them and to try to be able to communicate it in a clear and logical way so that our listeners aren't, listening to us or to me fumble around. So, Greggy, last week we talked about our boy, a little Marco
Little
Rubio,
Marco, they say.
and he just continues to suck. And I think he could be somebody that we could talk about for several episodes on just how big of a piece of shit and how much of a toe sucker he is. Not to king shame anybody, but you know,
Well, that's one of those kinks I'm kind of like,
take it or leave it.
yeah.
Well, leave it for you.
Definitely.
And so got me thinking more about the Trump administration. And so in the last few weeks, there's just been a plethora, a whirlwind, a shit ton of pardons that have been going on.
Yeah, dude.
And
insane.
it's gnarly, all the people. And there could have been just a load of different people that we could have discussed. But I decided to choose a couple of the winners, quote unquote.
Sergio's winning lot.
my winning lot. So our douche canoes, we're going to talk about two individuals and their crimes and why they're so douchey and why Donald Trump is douchey too. So the first person that we're going to talk about is an individual that goes by former Sheriff Scott Jenkins. And not to sound... it sounds a little classist, but just like with the last name Jenkins and you're talking about somebody from South, I just imagine like, and if you see pictures of him, again, not to body shame or something, but he looks like an evil character from like the Porky's movies or whatever. Yeah, okay. Like just kind of I'm
gonna look him up.
A husky guy that, looks like he is, a shady individual. So Scott Jenkins was a sheriff in Virginia.
Boy, oh boy, you weren't kidding.
Yeah, I mean, you could see just looking kind of at his face.
He's a real boss hog looking kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of where I was going with that. So Jenkins used to be a sheriff in Virginia. I forget, it's in some county, in Culpeper County.
Yeah.
And so he was recently sentenced to 10 years in jail for bribery and a plethora of other charges. But this is from News 8. Jenkins served as the sheriff of Culpeper County in Northern Virginia for a decade, but lost his reelection bid in 2023 amid charges he was facing and eventually was convicted on bribery charges. He was about to report to prison for a 10-year sentence before being pardoned by the one and only Donald J. Trump.
Yikes.
And so you might ask, what kind of things was Jenkins doing? And so federal prosecutors say that Jenkins took $75,000 worth of bribes and basically like suitcases of cash from rich people that want to be deputized as law enforcement.
Oh, God, no. Deputy dog over here. Fucking Jesus Christ.
It's like Oprah handing out cars to people. Who wants to be a deputy?
You get to be a deputy. You get to be a deputy.
Exactly. And
holy shit.
So he was taking bags of cash and was filmed by 2 undercover FBI agents receiving said cash.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
And during this time, of course, he wasn't vetting people. He wasn't doing anything to really warrant people having the power to arrest people and not going through the proper training.
Yeah, to be a deputy, I imagine that you have to have at least some kind of law enforcement training. And like you have to serve in some kind of capacity before you're deputized to lock people up for as long as they want.
Exactly. And
it takes citizens arrest to a whole new level.
Which is pretty gnarly. Like just thinking about like that whole process of some guy taking a publicly elected official,
right,
taking bags of cash,
yeah,
being filmed taking bags of cash, getting sentenced to 10 years by a jury, and then having Donald Trump pardon him. And so, of course, from CBS, this is Donald Trump's tweet or truth from his Truth Social. I almost kind of want you to read it in your voice, just because it would probably sound a little bit better.
Sheriff Scott Jenkins, his wife Patricia, and their family have been dragged through hell by corrupt and weaponized Biden DOJ. In fact, During his trial, when Sheriff Jenkins tried to offer exculpatory, and you know that he did not type that out, by the way. He did not say that at all.
Not at all. He probably doesn't even know what it means.
No, exculpatory evidence to support himself. The Biden judge, Robert Ballou, refused to allow it, shut him down, and then went on a tirade. As we've seen in federal, city, and state courts, radical left or liberal judges, as I call them. One time I was in California. Tesla, they say Elon did it too. And I said, no, you can't say that. Anyway, back to the story. This sheriff is a victim of an overzealous Biden Department of Justice and doesn't deserve to spend a single day in jail. He's a wonderful person, was persecuted by the radical left monsters. By the way, why is that in quotes? He's the one saying it. Who is he quoting by saying monsters there?
Himself?
Jesus Christ. And left for dead also in quotes. This is why I, as President of the United States of America, am taking my time out of my busy schedule of running the free world to write a truth post about pardoning a man who committed embezzlement.
Not guilty.
He's not going to jail tomorrow, but instead will have a wonderful and productive life. Sincerely yours, kiss hug, Donald J. Trump.
XO. So that's one of the douche canoes of the week. So of course Jenkins is
Leroy Jenkins.
He is now a free man. And then this one was kind of the icing on the cake for me. And it just goes. Some of the things I've been noticing, and I'm sure you have been too, is just the rampant corruption that has been going on with this administration. And granted, there is lots of corruption going on in politics throughout. You had, Bob Mendez that was just got busted. And you've had a lot of other people get caught up in political scandals and financial scandals. But this one, for me, just kind of took the icing of the cake. So let me ask you, have you ever heard of a guy named Paul Walsack?
Walsack? Sounds like ball sack, but...
Well, that was my next note. What does that remind you of?
Heavy clackers.
Yeah.
No, I've not heard of this guy before. What's his deal?
Well, I thought we could call him Polly Ballsack first, but
hell yeah, Polly Ballsack.
But I think it's actually pronounced Walcheck, but I'm just gonna go with Walsack just to call him Ballsack.
Yeah, that's a ball check, Ballsack. that's not a wall check or whatever. He's all balls.
Well, he is for all the corruption that he is.
Oh shit! Okay.
So Polly B, Polly W Nutsack, is a former nursing home executive who stole millions.
No. Well, you start with a former nursing home
executive who stole millions in employee payroll taxes, and was sentenced to federal prison.
Jesus Christ!
And with said funds, he purchased like a luxury yacht, airplanes, things like that.
I'm looking here. It's $10.9 million. Mm-hmm. Is that for real?
For real.
Jesus Christ!
And Polly is connected because his mother, Elizabeth Betsy Fago, or
Fago.
Yeah.
Fago.
Fago.
That was a drink that the Insane Clown Posse drink at their Juggalo conventions.
Were you an ICP guy?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
They were pretty ratchet.
Yes,
there are some ratchet ass music.
They are, but I think maybe we should explore that sometime.
Yeah,
that'd be kind of an interesting niche.
Yeah, I agree
group
with that.
because they have a pretty big following.
They've got a gigantic following. Mm-hmm. Weren't they labeled like a terrorist organization?
I mean, aren't they all?
No, well, that's true.
But yeah, back to Polly. So his mother is a a big fundraiser for Donald Trump, and she had also paid the $1 million to go to that fundraiser at Mar-a-Lago or whatever.
Oh no. Okay.
So he was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison, and so his mother applied for the pardon, stating in that pardon that she had donated over $1 million.
It's a pay to play.
It's pay to play.
Holy shit. This is corruption at its what?
Yes.
Wow, I did not read this story. So,
Yes. And
holy shit.
and so of course, instead of doing 18 months in prison and having to pay nearly $4.4 million of restitution,
Jesus Christ.
Pauly gets off.
Wow.
And is off the hook for paying $4.4 million to the employees that he stole from, along with the company that he ran into the ground.
Holy shit. Mm-hmm. How is this not literally everywhere?
Because it's just so blatant, and there's so many things that are going on that there's just not. I mean, we could go on through him releasing or pardoning Larry Hoover.
Holy shit.
Who was was a big time.
Well, isn't he still in state penitentiary though? Because like there were a bunch of state charges that are to keep him there for the rest of his life or something.
But all the federal ones are gone, and
Yeah.
you know, our boy Kanye West was a voice behind that, and currently now they're talking about possibly pardoning Diddy and Derek Chauvin.
Yeah.
So, I think one of the things that you just alluded to and said, not even alluding to, but just said out loud, is that with this administration, you're basically, if you're a Trump supporter and you're paying money, that you really don't have to follow the law, and that you are basically untouchable, which is also really scary when you think about the people that were involved in the January 6th riots. Mm-hmm. There were some pretty serious criminals in there that had been charged with murder, rape, molestation of children, that got off free and just recommitted those crimes. So right now we have an administration right now that if you support, Mein Kampf, that you are basically, and you're rich, that you're going to be able to get off.
Wow.
So those are the douche canoes. This is a little shorter one than we normally do, but
God damn.
But I also thought it was pretty powerful just thinking about that, just in general. That's not even a headline. It was for maybe a day, but we've moved on to different things. Well, I guess the new headline is Elon and Trump.
Yeah. The bromance is finally over.
Yeah.
The thing the breakup that we all saw coming. By the way, this was better. This was like. There's been no more clear breakup in our modern politics better than this. This has been just so delicious to watch, but this is fucking fucked. I paid you $1 million to be at your dinner, and
you're going to pardon my son.
Yeah, or you won't get another $1 million from me.
I mean, it's like that Van Halen and David Lee Roth, right? Like breaking up.
Yeah. It feels like that. Jesus Christ, dude.
But
wow.
So that's and I think that just goes to show how not only accepting gifts from Qatar, but pardoning people that are putting into your administration. The money that he's giving that governments are giving him for his golf courses, his meme coin.
Yeah.
It's all out there. This is one of the most blatantly corrupt administrations that I think we have ever seen.
And I think that's including his first administration.
Yeah.
This is, no, I don't think that we've seen anything like this play out quite like this.
No.
And and I think because there are so many other fires, there aren't a lot of people paying attention to this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But to your point, or
not so even just not this early. Most of the time, pardons happen at the end of an administration, right?
Right.
As the president's going out, you haven't had however many I mean, I'm sure you can look it up right now how many pardons have been granted thus far. But they're just, and it's full out like, well, I can do this and I don't give a shit. Jesus. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. It is. Yeah. I think one of the January 6th pardonees, got out of jail and then like immediately got into a shootout with the cops
and got killed. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, yeah, no, we're releasing the best that we've got. They say.
Or the woman who was shot inside and killed inside of the
Ashley Babbitt.
Ashley Babbitt.
Yeah,
her family's gonna get $6 million
insane
from the taxpayers.
Yep.
For her breaking into
Mm-hmm.
the Capitol
Mm-hmm.
and attacking police officers
Mm-hmm.
and destroying property, and yet we're gonna have to fit that bill.
Well, now that we've battled this douche canoe up the river, let's take a real quick break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at Charlie Kirk and the rest of Turning Point USA and what they've been doing to dismantle the American democracy, one brick at a time. So a couple weeks back, you had mentioned that you were only tacitly familiar with a guy by the name of Charlie Kirk, and I thought walking you through his background and like the organization that he established would help you get a better understanding for who this no upper lip, baby corn teeth looking motherfucker actually is. And I'm going to real quick zoom in on that picture so that you can see just how much he lacks an upper lip. It's bad, dude.
He kind of looks like the Joker.
Yeah.
Jack Nicklaus Joker.
Yep. Very much so. So Chucky Boy was born in Arlington Heights, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. He was born without an upper lip, as I mentioned. So Kirk was pretty well known in high school for being a conservative and leading a campaign against the school because they increased the price of cookies from 25 cents to 50 cents. Charlie wrote, "Together we can show the establishment the power of our generation. Cookies are the highlight of most school days. Only to be doubled in price without our consultation? No. Enough with the manipulation. We must stand together and fight the power." So,
you know what? I could support that if he wasn't such a douchebag. Like if he wanted to make the price of cookies more affordable for everybody, I'm all for that. But
yeah, well, he was. I have it written here in the script that he was definitely one of those kids that would have been ignored by a majority of the people in my school, with the exception of like a teacher here or there who's like, "Oh, that kid's got talent for something." You know what I mean? I remember cookies in high school, and I remember them being like 75 cents. Another quarter wouldn't have broken my spirit, but you got to have a hill to die on, and Chucky chose that one.
Were you a big school lunch guy? Or did you bring a lunch?
I kind of vultured. I just like picked up things off of people's plates like that they had left.
You were the bully and just said,
"No,
this is going to be the sitting down tax. One soft pretzel. I'll beat your ass."
I wish I had that kind of pull. It was more like, "Hey, do you want the rest of that? Because if you don't, I'll eat it."
You were the perpetually like super hungry kid all the time.
Yeah.
Nice.
I did not stop eating at all. But yeah, so back to Kirk. So he was complaining about that 25-cent increase. That wasn't all that he was up to in high school, though. He would eat by himself, sitting next to a radio like an emo kid, right? Listening to Rush Limbaugh in the afternoon. It actually reminds me more of like a dad who is angrily eating a cold ham and cheese while drinking whole milk in the minivan, like screaming into the ether, because he got divorced earlier that week, and he's just like, "Fuck, I hate these motherfuckers.
She left me.
God damn it, all I got was this minivan." So from Kirk, I started listening to Rush when I was a junior in high school, because you're looking for someone in high school to affirm your beliefs. I would never forget on my lunch break from like 12:17 to 12:55, I'd listen, just me. I went all in on Rush. And
oh, God.
What a fucking loser.
What a loser.
If you're in high school and like, you got like the cool kids club, you've got the sports, you've got like the theater kids, and then you've got little loser Chuck who's sitting in the corner by himself, like ham radio. He's got like one earbud in. He's like, "Oh, guys, you would never believe what Rush Limbaugh had to say today."
Definitely wearing like a shirt and tie to school.
Yeah. Very
Probably brought a briefcase to school instead of a backpack.
Most certainly. He had pennies in his loafers. Like he was very...
that kind of kid.
Yeah, he was that kid who deserved to get punched, who deserved to get bullied, honestly.
And you can wear all those clothes and sport that, but just don't listen to Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, I mean, if you did that in high school, though, you deserve to get bullied then too. So, like, I mean, there's a part of, you know what, hot take, bring back bullying in some cases. Hot take. There are some kids who deserve to be bullied. You know what I mean? Like, you come into school wearing a bow tie, you deserve to get bullied. I don't care who you are. You're the eccentric kid. Well, guess what? You're upside down in a toilet. But if you don't remember who Rush Limbaugh is, or didn't listen to talk radio growing up, he was the megaphone for the right wing during the 90s and the early 2000 period. Limbaugh was once quoted as saying, "Feminism was established to allow unattractive women easier access to the mainstream," as well as making racist remarks and racist impressions of the Chinese president, Hu Jintao at the time. Charlie listened to Limbaugh because he wanted someone to confirm his racist, sexist, and conservative leanings. While in high school, Kirk started to volunteer for another unrelated Kirk by the name of Mark Kirk. Mark Kirk, by all measures, was a moderate Republican in Chicago. Even saying at the time that Obama was, had the opportunity to put Merrick Garland up for appointment, he said that he should have been able to have that, at least the hearings, right? He also pulled his support from Trump in 2016 because of the way he spoke about Hispanics, the LGBTQ community, and the disabled. And very specifically because he himself is disabled. He had a stroke that rendered him disabled. And so he's like, hey, this is a bad human being. He's one of those like Republicans who's like, I'm fiscally conservative, but socially liberal. I live in Chicago, so I have to be like this, but also be that.
Okay.
So like, he did like the classic Republican thing, right? Like a classic Republican in a big blue city.
Yeah.
So you'd have to be wondering to yourself, like, how does somebody who kind of comes out of that cloth, like volunteering for that kind of candidate, turn out to be such a piece of shit? As his time in high school came to a close, Charlie co-founded, along with another fella by the name of Bill Montgomery, a student organization called Turning Point USA, which I'll be referring to as TP moving forward because it's shit. Bill Montgomery, a former conservative activist who happened to be at a school, like a college debate thing, and Charlie happened to be at this debate. He got asked to come to this college, and this guy Bill saw him up there. And like any normal interaction between a high school age kid and an older dude, older fat man, walks up to him really like kind of creepily in the backstage and is like whispers in his ear like, "Hey, you should do this on the road." Like a normal conversation would happen. Fun fact: Bill Montgomery was a COVID denier and he died from COVID-19. So,
God, there is some justice in the world. Not that I ever, wish death upon anybody, but like that's that,
Yeah, what is it? Kitchen has spoon in it. You know what I mean? Like, man who doesn't believe in COVID dies. Like, oh, God.
It has computer.
It's got computer, they say. Bleach, they say. But Bill was impressed with Charlie's ability to connect with a crowd. And to be fair to Charlie Kirk, he's really good at this. Like, he can get a crowd up off their feet really quickly.
So are you saying then that he is not like a Ted Cruz?
No.
Who is a swarmy piece of shit?
No. Like this is a guy who is, he's younger. He kind of understands the social climate. Like he's good with social media. Kind of like the guy that we were talking about last week for the Patriot Front. And how like he grew up in the age of the internet. So did Charlie,
Okay.
Like he was in high school in 2012. So like, he's like in his 30s now, but like, he was still of that age. So in 2012, Kirk and Montgomery established the new Cool Kids Club, TPUSA. They developed the organization to, quote, identify, educate, train, and organize students to promote the principles of freedom, free markets, and limited government. Very like classically conservative, right? Nothing way out of the ordinary there. But Charlie, oh, God.
But again, it annoys me to no end, and it enrages me. Limited government only in certain causes. They want maximum government when they want to control women's bodies, when they want to cut people off
Yep.
Medicaid, and they want to do all this other stuff. So fuck you.
Well, I'm glad to see that you're starting to steam from the ears now, because your head's gonna explode by the end of this episode.
I hope so.
If I play my cards right. So Charlie would eventually go off to college. He says he goes off to college, but he actually went to community college. Not that there's anything wrong with it. We're community college guys, like not a big deal. But he frames it as if he went off to university somewhere. He did not. He later drops out to spread the good news of being a conservative Christian student on college campuses. Because, those are the coolest kids on campus. One of the first images I remember seeing.
Virginity is cool.
Yeah.
Virginity is cool.
Hey, you. Stop drinking.
Cigarettes are bad for you, and they are bad for you, and
Yeah,
drinking's
they're
bad for you too. But
Yeah. Everything's bad for you, but
fuck off.
yeah, you go off to college to do all these bad things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fuck off, you fucking loser. God, what a fucking, he's the kind of guy who would tell on you for taking a cookie from the high school lunchroom. Like, he is that kind of guy.
He was definitely the RA at school, even though he never made it to school.
Yeah, no. If he had stayed at school, he would have been like the RA everyone hated. Mm-hmm. He would have been that floor dork.
Yep.
God, what a fucking loser. Like, he's the kind of guy that I actually would have bullied in high school. Like, genuinely, like, he is that kind of person. I
was looking at his face again, and he actually looks like a swarmier version of Jason Segel.
I can see that.
With no upper lip, but mixed with a little bit of Joker, too.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. One of the first images I remember seeing of Charlie, aside from the one that I showed you earlier of no teeth or no lip, was one of, like, he was sitting at a college campus and he had a table, like a folding table, and it said something to the effect of, like, prove me wrong or something like that. And, like, on a college campus, that's fucking catnip.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, I get you giving me the opportunity to fight with you? Yeah, I'm going to take it. Like, oh, debate you? No, it's not really a debate. It's just us screaming at each other.
But it's like the Westboro Baptist Church or whatever. It's that they're just trained to try to get you involved in back and forth. And the evangelical preachers out on the side of the road scream at you in bullhorns. They welcome that kind of chaos and that confrontation.
They want it, right? Yeah. And for Charlie understood early on that was going to drive clicks and content, and he got a lot of viral content
from doing that.
Oh yeah, and when we come back from the break, we're going to discuss those moments along with the evolution of Turning Point and how Charlie Kirk influences what we've seen in the lead up to and since the Turning Point election. All right, let's dial this up a little bit, shall we? This is what Kirk is known for, really. His confrontational.
The U.S. and California government should pay.
Well, what do you mean by
everyone.
the government? You mean taxpayers?
Yes, I mean taxpayers.
Oh, so someone else should pay for your school.
Yes, that's how taxes work.
I just find it funny, like the entitlement that you want somebody else to like pay for your schooling or your education.
That is how taxes work. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I reject that fundamentally. Like, invest in yourself.
A lot of money is hoarded within rich people and companies, the top 1% of people. What's the difference between someone who has 100 million and 200 million for like their lifestyle?
It's a big difference when you talk to an entrepreneur that's willing to like give up his entire life to go to take risks to change the world. If you feel the government is going to take more than half of what you earn, it disincentivizes risk taking. Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark have a 55 to 60% tax rate at the top level. Can you name a single billionaire, entrepreneur, or big company from those four countries?
No, because I'm American.
You know who can name plenty of American companies? They can. Tesla, SpaceX.
Tesla. So let me interject a couple of things. Or Poppy.
Go for it.
So, yes, that is. I guess in one aspect, I respect the ability to be able to have people like screaming and yelling at you for what you believe in, even though it's terrible beliefs. Like that takes a lot. I'm not a big confrontational person myself.
Thick skin.
To be able to do that, and to be, especially if you're conservative, being able to do that is is hard.
Yeah, going to UC Berkeley and like going into the Devil's Den,
Yeah.
if you're a conservative, is not an easy or a welcomed thing for most of them.
But the thing that I'm just learning about now, especially when you see the news that's been going on when it comes to the Trump administration trying to get rid of foreign students, or you even look at students that are out of state that pay double the amount what it costs to go to these universities. And so how much of your taxes are really being subsidized by the government, and how much of it is from people from out of the country that are coming and paying double the price, or people that aren't from the state that don't have residency?
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that he said in that clip was like he disagreed with the fundamental premise, right? And that is because he comes from a very libertarian background. Like his entire background is just about libertarian values. Like, well, taxes shouldn't exist. Like that was essentially what he was saying. Was like, you know, that when the kid was saying like, well, that's how taxes work. And he's like, well, I fundamentally disagree. It's like because he doesn't believe that there should be a tax system.
And he talked about Norway and Sweden, like how many Fortune 500 companies are there? Yeah, what are the countries that are normally listed in the top 20 of the happiest countries in the world?
Right. It's not about money, Charlie, as much as you think it is. But
yeah, but you don't know a lot about these countries because A, they have the longest lifespans, and they're the happiest countries too.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you type into a Google search or YouTube Charlie Kirk versus, you'll see hours and hours of content like just like that of him like owning college kids in these impromptu debates.
And Greg did that with quotation marks, owning.
Yeah. Owning in like the very conservative sense, the GOP. But like, you know, I wanted to ask you, you said you're not much of in terms of confrontation. Did you debate at all in college at all? Like, would you have debated like a Charlie Kirk, I guess is the question.
I actually, so in, I don't know what grade it was, but it was probably 90. When was the Bill Clinton? Was that 96?
96, yeah.
With that, so we did a presidential debate at school, and we got to play different characters in front of the whole school, and it was Bush, Bill Clinton, and Ross Perot, and I was Ross Perot.
Oh God, you had to fill in for Ross Perot.
So I was Ross. Well, I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, man, it's because I have big ass ears.
I was going to say,
fuck you, St. John's.
They fucked you.
They did. They were making fun of me.
Typecasting.
Absolutely. But I guess to big up myself, I came in second place.
Oh, very good.
Bill Clinton was always going to win, but
in the mock debate.
Yeah, it was a close second.
There you go. Hell yeah, dude.
I mean, I don't know how close it was, but I definitely beat George Bush.
I don't know how close it was, but there wasn't like an official point system.
You know what? We'll just say it was neck and neck.
Okay, very good, very good. Yeah, you tied. It was a virtual tie,
basically.
Yeah, I did school like I did like the school student group union group, whatever it was, in high school. Like we did like mock debates, and
okay.
I was like the homeroom representative and shit like that. So like nothing ever got done, but it was like, all right, I feel like I'm a part of something.
Did you like doing it?
Yeah. I wanted to be involved in like, I wanted to be an attorney when I was a kid. Like I really thought I was going to be, and then too many concussions later and you can't remember anything. So yeah. Anyway,
what were we talking about?
Anyway, back to the bird calls. So Charlie's got a lot of really bad positions. And one of the things that's happened here recently with these college campus tours that he's doing is he's gone from debating to coaching young men. And you'll notice a common theme here.
My girlfriend and I have differing political beliefs. So how should we handle our relationship when we have a lot of the same values but differing political beliefs?
Do you want the truth?
Yeah.
Do not marry this girl.
Okay.
Do not marry someone that you cannot talk about the daily news with. You guys can laugh at it. Do not build a life with somebody where you cannot agree on what daily news channel to watch. I'm going to be honest. When you have to instill values in a child, you cannot have the first elemental issue at 7 a.m. when you turn on the radio or a podcast to be disagreement. You got enough of that already in a home.
Yeah.
You need to have harmony.
I don't disagree with that.
No.
I have some friends, coworkers that are very opposite, and especially now in today's climate, I would have a very, very hard time being in a relationship with somebody that was a Trumper.
I'd agree with that. I think his. I'm going to let the rest of this clip play out, and then also like lay out the rest of his philosophy. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason why you and I would agree on the premise of the terms versus like the actual follow through.
What he really means.
Yes, I think those are two very different things.
Build a life with someone where you have agreement on the macro issues. So I'm a big believer in macro agreement. I'm not trying to like rock your world here, but do not try to change your girlfriend or your future fiance or wife politically. It does not work.
So a couple of things that don't work is that hairline that he's got. If you see how far back that thing goes, he might as well just shave it off, man. But yeah, no, it's very. Charlie Kirk is, if anything, good at this. Like he really is. Like he's very talented in terms of like holding the attention of a lot of people all at once. And he talks and speaks in platitudes and like just general enough to make it seem unoffensive. But I'm going to give you one more of his really bad takes that he's got. And remember this as we go through this discussion.
If you were to board a flight with United Airlines, would you rather have a pilot that is qualified or one that is diverse? Answer the question.
Wait, that makes no sense. Why is there two different things? How is it different? When you go to American Airlines...
Because in the pursuit of diversity, you sacrifice excellence every time. We know this with Harvard. Right. We know this with Yale. So we know this with the military. Right. Every time, every example that we pursue diversity, an institution becomes less excellent. If you're going to go from 4% of the pilots being black to 50% of the pilots to be black, it begs the question, you are going to lower the standards.
So my question is...
You're going to put a square peg through a round hole. You are going to...
You know what? I'm going to put my square peg through your round hole. Charlie Kirk.
Go off, King. Go off, King.
He's talking about mutually exclusive things right here. He's saying that just because you have women pilots, LGBTQ black pilots, or pilots of color, that you're having to lower the standards for them to become a pilot. And the only reason that anybody that's not a white older male that's a pilot is because it's DEI stuff. What the fuck? Like, everybody still has to pass a test. Everybody has to go through all this training. They have to show that they know how to do this stuff. So what he's talking about is unequivocally wrong.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong. He's an incredibly ignorant piece of shit who doesn't seem to know how systems work.
When a black person is murdered by police or at the hands of the police, the gun, bullet that came from a police officer's registered gun.
Which happens on average how many times a year, would you say? A black person killed by police. Washington Post's own database, left wing, 10 black individuals a year. So here's my contention. So you have a population that dads are not around, that is very, very murderous per population capita, that is very violent.
With dads not around makes a population murderous?
More murderous by numbers.
More likely to be involved in gangs. And we, as conservatives look at that and we say, wait a second, like the problem is within the community. The problem is not the government. The problem is not the culture. The problem is not the history. Instead, really what needs to happen is black leadership, black pastors, and black dads need to go into the black community and say, we're better than this.
God, that is like black-splaining and mansplaining mixed together.
It's real, like yeah, it's rough. It's only going to get rougher, so buckle up. One of the things that he said in that clip.
My vein is.
Oh, you're pulsating. Of all the episodes that we've done so far, except for like the Cody episodes, like this is one I kind of figured was going to like blow your rocks. But in that clip, he said something to the effect of like, he pointed to himself and he did this thing like where he was like looking to pull in a group of people.
He started like like extending his right arm out.
Basically, he was talking like us conservatives. What he meant is us white people. We look at the black community and go, they're violent, they're more murderous by capita or whatever bullshit numbers he was trying to throw out. Like, clearly he's ignorant of how systems of economic injustice, environmental injustice work against black and brown people and how they've always worked against black and brown people. But he is ignorant of that fact. He just thinks it's a matter of like bootstrap theory. That's all it is. He's a very, very libertarian person in that way. In 2018, in fact, he's also incredibly racist because in 2018,
yes, he is.
Charlie Kirk tweeted, "It would take 40 years worth of blacks killed by cops to equal the number of I think he meant there was blacks killed by other blacks in 1 year." So he's got a very twisted and distorted version of like what it looks like on the ground. Like, and not only just like the pure numbers of it, right? But like the sociological impact and psychological impact of watching black and brown bodies being modern day lynched on TV and going, well, it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 1 million. It's just wrong. So what are we talking about here? From an episode of Charlie Kirk in 2023, Kirk had to say this in part, and this is I'm going to read it exactly as he said it. Okay, so like all like the ums and the likes and things, that's all him here. Okay, quote: "Do you know that more than 600 is that stat real, Blake? Come on, is it real? I don't know if I can say that. I don't know if that's a stat is real. Okay, I'm going to say it. More than 600 white women a year are murdered by black men. 600 white women a year. Did you know that? By blacks. So 600 white women are murdered by blacks in a year. One just happened. Well, he was Hispanic. He might have been half black. Doesn't really matter. Here in Scottsdale, young 29-year-old girl walking on a hiking trail. A trans Hispanic comes and stabs her to death." End quote. So, like, it's about like white fear. Like, this is like you've seen this kind of conversation before, but when he says she's a 29-year-old girl, you know he's talking about a white woman, because if she had been anything else other than a white woman, 1, we wouldn't know the story. 2, yep, he would have identified it immediately because he only sees people by what they are.
Yeah. Well, and also referring to a woman as a girl who's 29 years old is also pretty sexist as well. And, you know, I'm just thinking also too, just off the top of my head, a couple of cases of his argument about, you know, black people being killed, but just thinking about Breonna Taylor, who was killed accidentally. It wasn't even they had the wrong address and they shot and killed her and her boyfriend. Yep. And then the woman the police officer in Dallas, Amber Geiger, who went to the wrong apartment.
Not her apartment.
And went in because the door was open and shot and killed a young man, Botham John.
Yep. He was in his own apartment.
Eating ice cream. Yep. And was murdered.
Yep. In cold blood.
Yep.
It's cool, though.
That's not a thing.
It's the blacks who are violent. From the same podcast episode, here he is, in part, being a racist, smug, shit-eating piece of fuck.
So just want to start a race war. The left would love to see a race war. The summer of 2020 was the beginning stages of what they wanted to try to see create. Karen emailed us. She said, "Charlie, it's time for the Karen name calling to stop. I cringe when someone asks me for my name." That's sad. You did nothing wrong. It's like a mass discrimination. Could you imagine if we did that? And we should not do this, by the way. Let me just be very clear. We should not do this. We should not be like, well, you're acting like a Trayvon. Could you imagine? Don't do that. That's bad. Could you imagine the stereotyping? That's the equivalent. Oh, you're a Shaniqua. Fuck! Can't do that. You know, if that makes you cringe, that's exactly what they're doing with the name Karen.
All right, Chad.
Dude, go off.
All right, Chad.
Yeah, no, it's so it gets so much worse, Sergio. You're like
Christ.
you are fuming right now. I've never seen your hot Guatemalan blood boil.
It's, you know what? I'm dialing myself back down to just kind of get back to the original point, and that's the whole goal, is to try to get people fired up, and to have people have this kind of visceral reaction.
Yeah. Take you out of your logical space, your thinking space,
and to get you screaming so that he can get more likes and see all
more
these
clicks.
crazy
These
liberal
liberals,
white.
these softies, these
Yeah,
snowflakes.
they can't handle their snowflakes, their cupcakes. They can't handle it.
Yep. They can't take the heat. They can't be, they can't handle being told the truth and blah, blah, blah. To say somebody okay, so the piece that he was doing in that, like the extended piece of that clip, somebody had gotten, there was a white woman, a white pregnant woman who was in New York City who got kicked off of a bike that she was renting. And there was a bunch of young black men who were there, and then they videotaped it. And when she like responded and like was like, "You need to give me my bike back," they were calling her a Karen, right? Fucked up thing to happen. Should not happen to anybody, period, right? Like, I'm not going to excuse bad behavior, no matter who it is, right?
Whatever race you are, things happen.
Bad things happen, and bad people are bad people, regardless of who they are. No excuses there. But then he goes on this, like, crusade to protect white women, and what it, like, being called a Karen is like being called Trayvon. Like, a young black man who was gunned down, shot in the back, how is that even close to being equivalent?
Walking through an affluent neighborhood by a guy who was a maniac,
right,
and wrestled him and then shot and killed him.
Yeah. How is that even close to being the equivalent?
Well, and just the other thing I think about too right now is just like, you think about the protests of people wearing hoodies and stuff like that in the NBA, and then I think of like Colin Kaepernick and all the things that he protested.
Silent protesting. Can't have it.
Putting the knee down, and how big that was, and how controversial it was for him. Well, I mean, he lost his job. He was a top 10 quarterback, and he lost everything. Doing that, and how it was used by Trump. That saying that, he hates police officers and he hates America, blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
And you don't hear from him now, like, because he can't say
I think he's still involved in different, organizations, and he's doing his thing. And
okay. I didn't know. Yeah, I don't keep up with Colin.
But you know what? Man, good for him. That guy is a Muhammad Ali type. Maybe not as prominent and
or prolific of an athlete.
But for somebody that was in kind of the prime of his career, and to give it all up to, and Ali didn't give it all up. He went to jail for not going to the Vietnam War, but he's made a big sacrifice, and hell yeah, fuck, I love Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, get after it, Colin.
Yeah.
Let's flash forward to 2024 though. The SPLC does a really good job of covering Kirk and his racist, sexist replacement theory ass. So we're going to
for our listeners, what's SPLC?
The Southern Poverty Law Center. Sorry, we've mentioned them a bunch on this podcast, but I'll refer to them as the SPLC. They do a really good job, so we'll be quoting from them quite a bit here. In 2024, Kirk accused Democrats of embracing immigration as part of their plot to secure voters, permit crime, and enact the Great Replacement. We've heard all this before, right? He warned his hundreds of thousands of listeners, we native-born Americans are being replaced by foreigners.
Which is such a contradiction, us native-born Americans.
He then promised Trump will liberate the country from the, quote, enemy occupation of the foreigner hordes. For a while there, Turning Point was the pariah state of the right. No one wanted to touch Charlie because of this kind of commentary. But his coalition of racist, sexist, xenophobic white men all came under alignment when Trump and J.D. Vance decided to run on the same ticket. But in 2016, Kirk had this to say about Trump. This is from Wired.com. Kirk started Turning Point when he was 18 to spread the conservative message on high school and college campuses, but in a lot of ways, he says Trump's candidacy makes his job tougher. Quote, people are going to brand us and loop us into that bucket of like, oh, you're a Donald Trump group? We're going to have to fight back against that. But again, in 2024, all of that changes. In the early days of TP, Kirk told a crowd at an event.
Toilet paper.
Yeah, I needed to get there.
Shit stains.
In the early days, though, he said this at an event. We do have a separation of church and state. And I say that because this Christian nationalism, paternalism, heavy focus on the family kind of thing, these white replacement theory stuff, we talked about this in a former episode with talking about a guy by the name of J.D. Vance, if you recall. So, there's that. Turning Point launched a new subdivision in 2021 called Turning Point Faith. So they went from being like, hey, we've got the separation of these two things. Now let's go ahead and create a whole new division within it.
Bridge it together.
And let's get this thing to come together here. Because he sees, if there's anything that Charlie's good at, is he's good at like figuring out like what's happening in the culture. And like he sees like, okay, like faith is starting to become like something I can monetize. So I'm going to do that and throw a bunch of different like rallies. So you're going to pay me to come to these things. Turning Point Faith works at the intersection of Trumpism and Christian supremacy. This initiative offers religious courses, sermon templates, and training opportunities to guide pastors toward political activism. They also host events like the Believer Summit and the Pastor Summit. Christian nationalism, which we've talked about in just about every episode we've done so far, is really scary stuff, but Turning Point is going to try to take it to another level. TP positions Christianity as superior and dominant while also orchestrating myths of religious persecution. So like, if a Christian dies abroad, well, he was killed by, a Muslim terrorist, right? Like that's the kind of thing that they peddle in. This framing is used to justify its extreme authoritarian vision for the country that threatens the foundation of our democracy.
Well, and it's also just making it go with the narrative of that Christians are persecuted against, and we were founded on these Christian principles, and
the founders were Christians, even though they were agnostics. Yeah.
And if you basically all you people are trying to hate on Christianity.
Yep, that's it. That's all it is. Yeah, we are under threat all the time. I've never met a group of not sadder, but like more terrified people who are supposed to believe in love and joy. While speaking about the need to support Trump's 2024 presidential campaign to an audience full of pastors, Kirk warned, if we don't get this right, though, and if we continue theological disputes and don't focus on liberty, we're going to have these theological disputes from prison. So like, he's like, hey, whatever your thing is, it doesn't really matter if we're not all underneath of Trump and this umbrella of like, getting the right guy in office. At a Trump rally in Georgia, Kirk told attendees, I believe there's a spiritual battle happening all around us right now. This state is a Christian state. I want to see that continue. But we need the faithful. We need those of you who have influence over your congregation to put pressure on your pastors. He also directed pastors to give sermons dedicated to preaching that the Democratic Party believes everything that God hates.
So, again, I didn't realize that Charlie Kirk was such. Was he always really Christian, or is it because he's like, I can make money off this right now?
Yeah. You're starting to put these things together, kind of like J.D. Vance's conversion to Catholicism.
Well, and then also, again, when you said about the preachers and pastors, is he preaching this to black Christians or is it to white Christians?
I'll let you run away with that one. What do you think? If you were to take a stab in the dark, where do you think this one lands?
I like to just throw out the obvious questions.
Yeah. This is a very whites and whites only situation. No, I don't want to say that. I think that there are definitely, and actually we're going to talk about one of these, one of the black folks who do fall underneath of Turning Point and Turning Point's whole influence and like their influence sphere. Like they've got a couple of really charismatic lightning rods for attention. And one of them happens to be a black woman by the name of Candace Owens, who was an employee at Turning Point. And she led Turning Point USA's women's events. And in June 2024, where she encouraged the audience to re-examine their understanding of history, particularly World War II. And if you've heard,
this never ends well. I mean, I feel like we're going to get a little bit of taste of anti-Semitism and maybe like Hitler wasn't so bad.
When you're talking about re-examine World War history, particularly World War II, or like when someone says the Civil War, like you go, oh man, I wonder what they're going to talk about.
You know, like there is like looking into the deeper aspects of it, but re-examining makes me think of just like, oh yeah. Yeah. It was a little overblown.
Yeah. Well, here's Candace and Charlie sharing the mic.
Yeah, I agree. I actually don't have any problems at all with the word nationalism. I think that it gets, the definition gets poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. So when you think about, whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. You know, he was a National Socialist, but if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look a different way. That's not, to me, that's not nationalism. So in thinking about how it could go bad down the line, I don't really have an issue with nationalism. I really don't. I think that it's okay. It's important to retain your country's identity and to make.
What is she even talking about?
She is talking about how Hitler wasn't wrong about being a nationalist because he was a nationalist for Germany. His only problem that he made was going outside of Germany. So whatever he was doing within his own borders was fine because he's a nationalist for Germans.
But how big of a contradiction is that as being a black woman and living in the United States and saying that the nationalism of the United States is a good thing because, you know, we have to have a national identity, and the national identity is being a white Christian male. When you're a black
You
woman.
know, one of the things I do think about this actually quite a bit, because I remember being a young black kid, and being like, am I good enough? Like, is what I am, like, what is good, or am I bad, or whatever? And I think at a certain point, like, you learn to love your skin and the skin that you're in. And I think that Candace Owens doesn't like the skin that she's in. That's just my, and maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that maybe it's just like, hey, I understand this is a grift. And like, I'm the token black woman that all these white people look to and go, yeah, she's one of the good ones, so I'm going to get a lot of money out of it.
The
blah,
Clarence
blah, blah.
Thomas of...
Yeah. And maybe that's it. And I'm hoping for her sake that she doesn't hate herself.
That would be really funny if, like, in private, she just, was just like, fuck these honkies. I'm taking their money.
She's just like, listen, motherfuckers, I don't give a shit about any of this. Y'all dumb motherfuckers are... I always knew white people were stupid.
Chang Chang.
But Candace Owens has so many more bad takes, though, Sergio.
And if women do not want to have children. And then, again, somebody pointed this out to me on TikTok, even in circumstances where the biological overrides and women are going, you know what, suddenly I feel my biological clock ticking. I want to have a...
Oh, this is all about... This whole thing's been about social engineering men and women to not want to have children, and Candace Owens has a really big problem with that.
Child. They are social engineering women to want to do that without men. So this is my perspective. Don't hate me. Hate what's actually happening. I believe women are being socially engineered to hate men, and men are being socially engineered to be gay. Don't at me. It's just what I see. I've picked up on it.
Don't at me.
It's so bad. It's such a bad take.
It's a terrible take. It doesn't make any sense.
None of it ever does with Candace. She's a lunatic.
But the thing is, this is frustrating, is that she is really good in front of a mic.
Oh God, she's really good.
She's smart.
Yep.
But yet these smart people are fucking crazy. Or they're trying to get just as much money. They're trying to just dip into this capitalist, society that we live in.
I was listening to Bo Burnham. That's a name you didn't think you'd hear today, I bet. Bo Burnham said something to the effect of like, capitalists realized like this past generation that there really are no more natural resources that are like natural resources are never going to be like a forever thing, but like people's like the space in people's brains is
stupidity.
Well, like you can just occupy people's time,
yeah.
And like that's the new resource is like your time. So like, how do I keep you in front of the screen longer by listening to stupid dumb assholes?
So you can advertise and sell them shit.
Yeah, and like keep people listening to people like Candace Owen, who are lightning rods for attention. Like whether you hate her or like her, she absolutely is a lightning rod for attention. If she says something, you know it, whether you want to or not. If you hang out in these kinds of spaces, right? Like if you're listening to this kind of content, you're like, oh.
But you have to know who she is overall if you're somewhat astute to politics overall. Like that's a name that's pretty well associated with as being a woman of color associated with the right.
I think that you're probably overestimating the general public. I think
Really?
I think a lot of folks don't know the likes of Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens.
Well, I mean, we should put that on a poll.
Okay, we'll put it on a poll.
Have you before this podcast episode, have you ever heard of Candace Owens or Charlie Kirk? Yes, no?
I like it. All right, yeah, I'll put it out there. Don't worry about it. Last thing from Candace before we move on, though. She loves to talk about feminism as a precursor to transgenderism, and really lays all of this at the feet of women.
Actually, what feminism is it is about disturbing healthy relations between the sexes. I actually say now that if you really understand feminism and you start to follow it and you start to get deep into the history of feminism, it is actually a precursor to transgenderism, right? It's telling women to act like men, right? So feminism really did have to come first. First, you had to confuse the sexes. First, you had to go out and you had to say to women, shouldn't you be more like a man? Shouldn't you just be more like a man? And at the same time, they are rinsing the minds of men as well. And they're telling them, well, you should be more effeminate. You should cry a little more. You should really get into your feelings. But no, women, you go to work. Actually, what feminism
Go on.
What the fuck? No, seriously, like what the fuck? Like,
yeah, it's so dumb.
It's the dumbest argument ever. It's saying that empowering women to get the equal pay and to have the same kind of social rights that men have, that you're leading a population of transgender youth.
Yeah.
Is that? I mean, that's basically what her argument is, right?
Yep. Somehow
so I don't understand. I don't understand that.
No one does. I think it's really what I think it's about is it's about driving fear around, like it's the new satanic panic, right? Like transgenderism,
listening to rock music.
Yeah, it really has become like, oh, you can't send your kids to school, or they're going to learn how to play Dungeons and Dragons, or they're going to cast spells in your basement, right? Like that's all it is. You're going to learn about sex and like what it means to not. To be homosexual, heterosexual, transgender, like you're going to learn these terms, and all of a sudden you're going to become that thing.
You're going to learn all these woke terms where people don't know whether they're this, them, that.
Yeah. Activists have long decried feminism as a destructive force that threatens every aspect of American life. At Turning Point 24 Young Women's Leadership Summit, which we were just watching a clip from with Candace Owens, it had like the flowers and like pink accents all over the place. Like they're like very much like, oh, this is a woman's only thing. Alex Clark, who warned attendees to stop outsourcing the home and putting young children at risk through their dependence on public education. She had this to say, quote, "Children are under attack, and you and I have to protect them," she warned. Alex Clark is a Turning Point USA pop culture and lifestyle influencer and hosts the Poplitics, which is a mouthful, and Culture Apothecary podcasts. Turning Point USA describes the role of the conservative pop culture shows as politics Politics is always downstream from culture, and if we can reach people where they're at culturally, that's how we can influence our nation. Clark has used her platform to attack daycare and to make false claims about hormonal birth control, and that hormonal birth control can make people bisexual. So if you've ever wanted to like look into the most insane shit, like take a look at her Instagram. It's sprinkled with like these kind of views with like sponsored content, blah 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 blah. But she is absolutely a part of Turning Point's like outreach to soften their extremist views, right? Like, how do you get like, how do you get we talked about this in the past before. Judy and I talked about trad wives, right? Like the idea that like to get extremism to be softened, you just bring women in and put them in like nice frilly dresses and make them like, you make it like softer in that way. Clark and Kirk and other key figures have called on young women and girls to abandon their educational and career aspirations in favor of their natural, quote, natural positions as wives and mothers. Kirk once asserted, quote, more younger women need to get married at a young age and start having kids. The single woman issue is one of the biggest issues facing civilization. At another Turning Point USA event, Owens, who we talked about previously, defended the need to pull women away from social and political life. She said this, quote, every ill we are fighting now in society has been brought forth by women. Here's one of it's insane. Like
what?
It makes like when I was writing this up, like I'm sitting like in my bedroom going like, what is happening? Like how is this language acceptable by any woman?
But it's just like this, like I'm a self-loathing woman.
I hate myself.
And we're the cause of all of society's problems.
Right.
Like, but yet she portrays herself as this really strong, like woman who is this, and yet she's saying like, we're the problem.
Like my question has always been, and like I'm in no way, shape, or form do I mean this to be disrespectful. I mean this as an educational or a thought exercise, at least. Feminism has made it possible for women like Candace Owens to have a platform to be heard and to be respected while they're being heard. If you were to say, hey, Candace, do me a favor, shut up and go in the kitchen and stop talking because I'm tired of hearing you, she would say, you can't say that. That's sexist.